All right. Thank everyone. Thank everyone for your patience for getting set up here. For those watching on LinkedIn or on YouTube Live, thank you for your patience with this camera in front of me. I'm actually doing this camera here is a live for those that are on Instagram. And so, again, thank you for following. Vote for Donovan Hilton on LinkedIn, on YouTube, as well as on Instagram. And so for those that are on LinkedIn, visit again, vote for number 4, Donovan Hilton. And thank you for liking and sharing, because I would like to do lives on my LinkedIn page, but I have to get those numbers up. And today's conversation, today's daily insight, which is a hopefully quick conversation about just what's going on in the areas of business, community, and civics. Today, we are talking about civics in this conversation, where we're focusing on Haiti's and just what's going on with their elections and just staying up to date. I know we've been following that for a while. We want to thank ldhadvising.com. That's right, ldhadvising.com. That's L as in Lord, D as in Donovan, H as in Hilton. ldhadvising.com is the website for LDH Advising, your top advisory firm in urban areas. LDH Advising is an advisory firm that empowers businesses and individuals to enhance their influence, credibility, and impact through strategic communication, relationship management, and brand development. Through consulting, coaching, and public speaking, LDH Advising helps leaders craft authentic narratives, build meaningful connections, and position themselves for lasting success. And that's what we're talking about today. Respectfully, we're following the story of Haiti's and the journey of building lasting success. And again, we stand in agreement on peace, prosperity, and the well-being of the individuals, the people, of course, the animals and the wildlife and the nature. All those things are affected. And so we are looking for, again, my name is Donovan Hilton, serving as your civics advisor in things of education and engagement, helping to stimulate minds. Again, we're just looking to stay aware and do what we can, if it's nothing but at least prayers and doing good thoughts and doing good things, just to bring respect to that situation and to bring a peaceful end to it. That's why we are here. And so I thank you for liking, following, subscribing. I think we're rocking and rolling all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. For those that's following the BRICS conversations, thank you for clicking on that playlist. The Haiti's, respectfully, playlist is building. And I know I did a few days ago a update on the situation in Haiti, but that was back in November 2024. We're now in 2025, and I just did that video, the one that was just published by the Miami Herald back in 2024. I did that video a few days ago, so I felt only right to what I could find was the most up-to-date story or article about what is going on in the Haiti's area. And this article was actually published in January 31st, 2025 by the Miami Herald, by none other than our friend, Miss Jacqueline Charles, who I did the report on, or who we did the report on the Miami Herald conversation earlier. I was thinking about bringing it up, but I won't. So Jacqueline Charles, we'll see if we can put the link in for the last video we did with her in regards to staying up to date with the Haiti story. Excuse me. Now, it's saying Miami Herald as the source, creating the article through Jacqueline Charles, but I'm finding this article through Stars and Stripes, also known as stripes.com. So I want to shout them out as well for providing the information, and we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to try to breeze through this thing quickly. Okay, Tribune News Service, the head of Haiti's embattled presidential council, says he believes that both the reform of the country's constitution and general elections to put a legitimate government back in charge can take place before the end of the year. Great news. Haiti last held elections in 2016, and hasn't had an elected president since the July 2021 assassination of Jovenel Moise. Respectfully. Leslie Voltaire, the head of Transitional Presidential Council, is envisioning a vote to restore democracy to Haiti with elections for a president, parliament, and local mayors on November 15th. So we want to keep that date in mind. Voltaire made the declaration during interviews Wednesday with TV Monde 5 and France 24, Radio France International, while on a European tour, during which he met President Emmanuel Macron in Paris and Pope Francis at the Vatican. That's huge. They're power players. I'm doing this live, and I want to say not too long ago, President Emmanuel Macron was at the White House with the newly elected president in 2025. Obviously, Pope Francis and the Vatican has great history and respect, and so that's huge as far as those conversations. Thank you for forgive me for not commercial breaking myself. I want to shout out Joe T. Baker III. That's Joe T. Baker III, jtb3.org. That's J as in Joe, T as in Tom, B as in Baker, the number 3.org. Please check out a story about perseverance and inspiring to move others in a different direction. Great story. And I came up with commercial break me, please, from his stories. I'm not sure where he got it from, but I want to make sure I pay the respect and where it's due. So check out my friend Joe T. Baker. Back to the article here. Voltaire hopes to have a constitutional referendum voted on by April and envisions the first round of general elections around November 15th. Runoffs, he said, would take place around mid-January of 2026, so that finally on February 7th, there could be a legitimate government. Under the election plan, the 9-member Provisional Election Council, responsible for organizing elections in Haiti, would prioritize voting in regional departments currently not under the control of armed criminal groups. I think that we will have elections in 8 departments that are free of gangs. We will have the elections in the Artibonite, forgive me if I mispronounce that, which is a quarter controlled by the gangs. We will have elections in half of Port-au-Prince, Voltaire said. I'm going to read this beginning part one more time. I think we will have elections in 8 departments that are free of gangs. And not every person growing up in their geographical location of life does not have to experience gangs controlling elections. And so that's why we want to be mindful, be grateful, be appreciative, and be aware to help where we can, even if that means just giving out good feelings of blessings and frequencies and vibrations and energy in regards to just sending love, if you will. Thank you for the commercial break. He acknowledged the plan, and amid Haiti's turbulent gang violence and worsening humanitarian crisis may be overly ambitious. It is very quick, he told France 24 when journalists questioned the timetable. When the journalists raised the issue of continuing gang violence, Voltaire said the security situation is mainly in the metropolitan area. If anyone has any content they can send me about the security situation, mainly in the metropolitan area, please let me know. That's an urban area. Again, I want to shout out ldhadvising.com, website for LDH Advising, empowering urban communities one connection at a time. Very important to have that conversation, especially in metropolitan areas. A source on the electoral board told the Miami Herald that on December 30th, they forwarded a calendar proposing May 11th for the constitutional referendum and a budget. While they envision holding elections in November, they have yet to propose a specific date. Asked about whether any vote can take place in the current security environment, the electoral advisor said, technically, we will do all we need to do, but the security is in the hands of the government. And I think that's when we're talking about direct foreign investments or people wanting to invest dollars, it's about security and making sure things are secure and not necessarily corrupt. And respectfully, a government helps to do that. A government provides that order in which a business or commerce can come in and take place to do what needs to be done. But nobody has time, respectfully, to put money into something with no return based on a lack of certainty. and security, respectfully. Commercial break me and we're back in. I won't say that's what she said. Bad joke. Shout out to The Office, Michael Scott. Voltaire's assessment of Haiti's ability to pull off a vote this year is in contrast to the view of the United Nations, which last week cast doubts on the 9-member Presidential Council being able to stage elections in time to restore democracy by February 2026. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the Security Council that political setbacks fueled by corruption allegations involving 3 of Voltaire's colleagues on the council had opened the door to escalating gang violence and was endangering the election timeline. So, alleged corruption allegations involving 3 of Voltaire's colleagues on the council. Simply put, the goal of restoring democratic institutions by February 2026 is in jeopardy, Gutierrez said in a report. During his interview with France 24, Voltaire dodged a question about the corruption allegations. The matter, he said, was before the justice system, and he lacked the power to do anything about the 3 council members caught up in a bank bribery scandal. The accused council members, Smith Augustin, Luis Gerald Gilles, and Emmanuel Vortelleri, forgive me for mispronouncing your names, have insisted on their innocence but have refused to respond to summons from an investigative judge. Gangs' ongoing attacks. In November, Voltaire led the efforts to oust the prime minister after taking over the council's rotating presidency. The new government, led by Prime Minister Alix Didier Felice Amin, has shown some progress in filling the government positions, including naming a former head of police as Secretary of State for Public Security. You see that. But authorities continue to struggle on the security and humanitarian fronts. Armed gangs prompted a Federal Aviation Administration ban on U.S. flights to Port-au-Prince after opening fire on 3 jetliners in November. They've also shot up a U.S. embassy van. And I think that it's going to boil down to, respectfully, it's going to boil down to any group, or anybody that is able to address security and humanitarian needs will have the interest of the groups or individuals that are playing a part in trying to find solutions. This is where I advocate easier said than done, where the African diasporas come in and put in one situation at a time in situations like this. Okay, what resources can we have to clean this up, and what dollars can we donate? It's not a lot. I don't think it's going to be a lot. I mean, it's a lot for, countries and things, but it's not a lot for what could happen. And I don't know if there's any countries in developing or developed countries that will come in. They can come in, and you want them to come in to be a solution, to bring that security and that humanitarian. I know countries are doing that in developing countries, but ultimately what everyone is looking for and how decisions are made and how needles are moved and how relationships are built. People remember times like these. Desperate times call for desperate measures, respectfully, and security and humanitarian efforts are what is going to change the game, and what the focus, not a game, but what's going to change the momentum and what the focus people are looking for, the solutions people are looking for. Thank you for the commercial break. Armed gangs prompted a Federal Aviation Administration ban on U.S. flights to Port-au-Prince after opening fire on 3 jetliners in November. They've also shot up U.S. embassy fans. Now, respectfully, what you're doing is, I'm not sure the relationship of the U.S. and Haiti's in regards to economics and import-export, but what the gangs are doing respectfully to the situation, which I don't know because I'm not there, but it looks like these situations are driving away those said developed countries that are possible resources. Embassies being attacked, and airplane flights being challenged. We get it. And so again, we stand in agreement on peace, mentally, emotionally, for the solutions and the steadfastness of the faith to really move forward to find those solutions, because your biggest supporters that have the finances don't want to go through those challenges per se. I don't know the details, but as I was saying, hey, what about these developing countries? Well, one right here is kind of having to protect their personnel from the gangs, respectfully. Back to the article. This week, gangs attacked downtown Port-au-Prince and farming communities. I want to do some deeper research on Port-au-Prince. I know it has history. I know it has influence. I want to get deeper into Port-au-Prince. If you have any content that I can look into, the origin, the function, the purpose, if you will, I would love to look into that. I want to wrap this up. I don't want to take too much time. This is loading right now, so thank you for your patience. I'm so glad we're able to get some form of, results. Some form of screen share on Instagram Live. That's so cool. So Port-au-Prince, the capital of Haiti. Another conversation, but Haiti's has a lot of history. But it's the capital of Haiti, a port on the western coast of Hispaniola, population almost 2 million. Back in 2017, founded by the French in 1749, it became capital of the new republic in 1806. The city was devastated in January 2010. I remember that, by an earthquake that claimed more than 200,000 lives. Standing agreement. So it's what. This is why the conversation is happening. Is there a GoFundMe? We gotta. There has to be humanitarian, and more so when the items are going, the resources are going. Is it guaranteed it's going to get to where it needs to go? And that's with any organization or any situation, But it's about legitimacy and certainty that drive those actions moving forward. This week, gangs attacked downtown Port-au-Prince and farming communities in the mountains above the capital, cutting off the last remaining access to the south. The attacks left a trail of dead livestock and forced farmers to flee their burning homes in the Kinskoff area. That's horrible. And I stand in agreement, for protection. And that's scary. You got kids, elderly, and everyone in between. Do all you can while you have opportunities. Because the situation, people will love to be in a situation, make the best of them. Respectfully. Hope I'm not speaking out of ignorance in any of this. Voltaire told France 24 that the gangs are retreating on certain fronts, thanks to the effort of the Haiti National Police, the country's fledgling army, and the Kenya-led multinational security support mission. The government, he said, is lobbying to increase the number of mission cops and soldiers, which now stand at less than 800. Voltaire's announcement about elections and his take on the security situation got immediate pushback in Port-au-Prince, where other politicians cast doubt on the possibility of holding a vote when the capital is still overrun by gangs. Again, security, humanitarian, the capital needs to be cleared out, or able to be organized and operative for that government. So these are what people are looking at as challenges and opportunities for solutions. Another world. Mr. Voltaire, you are in another world. Mr. Voltaire, you are in another world, your own world. Lawyer Andre Michel, a member of the political coalition known as December 21st, said on X. He accused Voltaire of lying in France 24 and TV5 Mode when he said that armed gangs had retreated from Delmas to the stronghold of warlord Jimmy Barbecue Chorizo and the lower Archibonite region, the site of 2 massacres of last year. I know we've been following stories on the warlord. The gangs have rather gained ground in Haiti. They have conquered more territories than before, Michel said. The failure is total. Michel and other political and civil society leaders have been insisting on reconfiguration of the presidential council because of corruption allegations and the escalating gang violence. Earlier this week, members of December 21 and EDE, the party led by former Prime Minister Claude Joseph, asked that Chezer's powerful Vive Ansanim gang coalition be designated as a terrorist organization by the Trump administration. So we're going to see if we can follow that. So it looks like there's calls for, calls of situations. Let's see what that looks like. The request sent to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, so this is updated, came after the two leaders and the head of former President Michel Martelly's PHTK political party ignited a political firestorm after they included the gang coalition in a proposal to the 15-member Caribbean community, CARICOM, on how to solve the ongoing political crisis. The letter listed Vive Assam as one of the groups that supported revamping the transition to replace council members. And this is what I want to look at next, possibly, CARICOM, because when we're saying, oh, well, what is those African diaspora? There is a Caribbean community. So that Caribbean community is that local, I would assume, front. And we're going to see if we can follow that and see what that looks like, because it's supposed to be one body, if you will, for that particular community. The inclusion of the gang coalition, commercial break me, please. Thank you for your patience on that. Back to the article. The inclusion of the gang coalition was seen as an endorsement of giving gangs a voice in the political discussions, which Michel has denied. Haiti is in the fourth year of transition since Moset's killing plunged the nation into an unprecedented wave of gang violence, and pressure to hold elections are expected to grow. Beyond the overwhelming security concerns, there are steep logistical and human resources challenges for the government running the elections, the political parties campaigning, and the voters. Elections will be extremely difficult this year, said Brian Concanen, executive director of the Boston-based Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti. But Haiti does need to have elections as soon as possible. When people say there is not enough security to hold elections, I often bring up the U.S. 1864 elections, he said. The Civil War's violence surpassed Haiti's current violence by far, and much of the U.S. was not under government control. Many argued the elections should be postponed, but Lincoln, although he initially thought he would lose, insisted that we needed to put the security questions up to the voters. The election ended up being a referendum on the war and the structure of the country after the war. So I didn't know that. Fun fact, we want to look deeper into that, hopefully, in the future conversations. I think this could be a huge conversation. I know you got to look at certain demographics, if you will, segments. You got to look at certain segments to see what all that looked like. I'm very curious to see. Haiti's last population consensus was 22 years ago in 2003. And though Voltaire says the electoral roll has about 7 million voters, no one can say with certainty where they are. The rampant gang violence has forced more than 1 million Haitians to flee their homes, and hundreds of thousands have also fled to the United States, Canada, and elsewhere. And respectfully, that's why in situations like these, I can see where people are wanting to flee to the U.S. I get that. And that's why it's important to have conversations of what can be done, if anything, and there are solutions for countries to be able to sustain themselves where those situations aren't happening. Easier said than done. Timing is everything, and situations can happen to anyone. So we just always stand in agreement for peace, prosperity, grateful for the moment. We make the most of our moments. We prepare for the best. We try to get better. Once accounting for 60% of the electorate, the West Regional Department, where Port-au-Prince is located, and the Artibonite area are now flooded with gangs wielding military-grade weapons who control access in and out of the neighborhoods and major highways. This makes me think of that movie where that individual was making a business going all over the world selling guns, and his biggest type of industry and market was little civil wars. Some people kept them going on purpose. Some people, obviously took advantage of situations. But I know that a lot of these weapons, like a lot of different situations, don't just happen to appear in certain areas. Let's just be real about it. Voltaire noted that in the last election in 2016, Moset became president with 500,000 votes, a figure that put his legitimacy in question and triggered an electoral crisis. If a new election is able to surpass that number, Voltaire said, then those elected will be much more legitimate than the presidential council, he said. Robert Fatton, a retired political scientist from the University of Virginia, said if Haiti were able to pull off any vote this year, it would be surprising. Armed groups have now gained autonomy from the powerful political and private actors who have initially funded and controlled them, said Fatten, speaking earlier in the day during a webinar on Haiti co-sponsored by the Kimberly Green Latin American and Caribbean Center at Florida International University in Miami. Fatten said the Presidential Council has been unable to reestablish state authority and is facing a crisis of legitimacy, that's my word, that endangers its very survival. Moreover, the incapacity of the Kenyan-led mission to contain, let alone defeat the gangs, has compounded the crisis. As gangs continue to expand their domination of the metropolitan area, everyone is watching to see if the latest siege on Kinskov will lead to a full-scale takeover of Port-au-Prince. Haitians are increasingly doubtful that the international mission, with its little force and inadequate arms, can create the conditions in which the council promises can be fulfilled, Fatten says. That's the end of the article, and I want to shout out again Jacqueline Charles for taking her time out to write such an informative story. And I want to go back down to the bottom here where something caught my attention. Easier said than done, but it's moments like this where like the African Union and that CARICOM need to have conversations. And I say that respectfully because those that invest in you usually see you investing in yourself first. And this is no one's challenge, but obviously the geographical territory where the challenge is at. But at the end of the day, if you don't help your neighbor with their challenge becomes your challenge. And these are things you want to stay ahead of. These are things where, for example, where I was talking about the relationships between the Western countries and the African diaspora countries, it's moments like these where you're able to come in, have those true conversations to find solutions. Because if not, there's other bodies that can come in and try to provide the same solutions, dealing with security and humanitarian efforts. People want the situation to stop, and those that can come up with a solution quickly usually have the leverage, and it's a bigger game, than what we currently see. So we're thinking long-term, and we're talking about relationships, and managing connections. We're talking about a long-term game. And that's why I want to shout out again, ldhadvising.com, website of LDH Advising, top advisory firm in urban areas, for having the empowerment skills to provide long-term relationship opportunities. And so for those that want, go ahead and scroll down, and there's a free gift here of how to learn to build relationships from scratch for your professional needs. You can claim, you can get your free 5-step relationship building checklist. You get a free 35-minute relationship building webinar on how to build professional relationships from scratch, and for you to over and understand why building connections and relationships is a long-term game, and finding solutions in the short term to provide foundations in the long term is going to be the goal. And anyone able to achieve that is going to, really get the attention of the Haiti's decision makers, respectfully. So thank you for, again, first of all, we stand in agreement for peace, prosperity, success, a turnaround and reverse of the situation, for lives to be protected, for lives to be saved, for lives to learn, grow, and move from this, for lives to be healed, for hearts to be healed, for protection, for food, for all those things. It's a lot that came from this, not just from today. It's a buildup of a lot. And we've already seen, going back to 2010, the assassination, and it's a lot. And so I feel, I would like to cover these things. I don't get a chance to be introduced to a lot of these conversations. I'm a fan of African diaspora countries. I'm a fan of urban areas within the United States. I'm a fan of urban areas within the United Kingdom. I'm a fan of relationships going and conversations happening between those areas to increase customer bases, to increase community presence, to increase buy-in. Thank you for your patience on the phone. But in the meantime, I thank you for going to ldhadvising.com, checking out their work, sharing this information. And if you felt this message was of any value to you, I thank you for visiting those links to donate monetarily what you felt this message was worth. Thank you so much, everyone, for a good rest of the day. We are wrapping up, and I'll see you next time. Peace.